had a miscarriage. And that was sort of the first thing of like, wow, this life isn't going the way I thought it would go. And to back up a little bit. So after I went to college, I went to University of Virginia. I moved to Boston and lived there for 4 years. I walked to work. I lived a very normal life then and just did everything I wanted to do. I got really involved in our church, loved crafts. That was one of the things I didn't mention. I was an artist. I love everything to do with art. So that is a lot of what I spent my time on was, crafts, painting, doing those kinds of things. So then anyway, so fast forward, had a miscarriage, and then my husband had an affair, which really sort of shattered my whole world of like, I thought if you're faithful and you pray, then your life is going to be good. So that was kind of shocking for me, but we were able to put our marriage back together, which was pretty amazing because of the Lord and forgiveness. But then we had a son who I can talk way more in detail about as we go on through the interview, but through a series of things, he was taken off some medicine that he needed and died. And that really sort of that really, should I start again or something?
No, that's fine. You keep going.
That shattered my faith because I wouldn't say shattered, actually. I was shattered and wondered where God was in the middle of that. So really drifted from God. And then God really met me in these incredible ways. Just when I cried out to him. So after that suffering, I knew that God would never.
And when you say God met you in this suffering, what does that mean? What does that look like when you say that? I mean, losing a 2-month-old, your husband being unfaithful, those are extremely heavy things. And so,
I'm happy to talk about that. So it was interesting because Paul was born with a hypoplastic left heart, which means he had half a heart. And we knew that before he was born. So we got the best surgeon at the time in the world to do his surgery. He was out of the woods. So we thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is great. God is going to be honored through his life. And then when he was 2 months old, his surgery was in Michigan. We took him in to see a pediatrician when our normal pediatric cardiologist was out. So this guy did not know anything about Paul's heart condition. Impulsively took him off all his medicine, saying, oh, he looks great. We don't need to do anything. But he didn't really understand his condition. And so within 3 days, he died. And it probably was one of the darkest times in my life, just wondering, where is God and how did this happen? And so my Bible was unopened for months. I didn't want to draw near to God. But the funny thing is, right after Paul died, my husband and I spoke at Paul's funeral and said, God never makes a mistake. We felt really strong and I felt like God carried me. And then months later, I wanted to pull it all back because I thought, I don't know where God is. But I remember being in the car one day and just wondering, what is the point of all of this? And I was so depressed. And I put in a worship tape just to sort of get my mind off of whatever was happening. And all of a sudden, I sensed that God was in the car with me. And it was this wild sort of sense. So I ended up turning off the tape because I thought, what is happening here? And I was just singing along with the worship song. And I just sensed that God was in the car saying, I'm with you. I'm never going to leave you. Like, don't despair that my relationship with you is going to be different because you've lost Paul. Like, my relationship with you is actually going to be better. And that was kind of this thing that I didn't even understand it, but it was, I would describe it as the most incredible moment of my life. Honestly, it felt like heaven. It felt like, wow, it means that it doesn't matter what is happening in my life, that God, this presence of God will always be there. And that was probably even more real to me than the time that when I committed my life to Christ, when I felt like God was really there. It was just this moment where God carried me.
How long did that last?
Probably just a few minutes of just sensing like, Jesus, you are right here. And I feel like sometimes in suffering, the veil is just a little bit thinner than other times. And there's just this sense that God is there. That is probably the most profoundly I've ever sensed that. But I've sensed God's presence really through reading the word a lot and pretty strongly as well. But that was more like, well, God is in this van, my minivan with me. And I go back to that moment sometimes, just remembering like, this is what heaven feels like. It feels like joy in the midst of the worst, that you don't even think about anything else but God.